What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Big Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. If you're listening to the podcast, it is Thursday, October 6th. If you're watching live on YouTube, youtube.com/Pick6. It's Wednesday, October 5th, which means it's a Brady Quinn football show. I don't know why I'm giggling.
Well, we're laughing because of how we walked right into the show. But Will, we got to talk about the history that was made this week. Aaron Judge, 62 home runs, just amazing. And
anytime, Brady, you can take several weeks to celebrate and soak in a man becoming tying the seventh most home runs in a single season in MLB history. You really have to do it.
Did you notice the MLB's kind of pivot just to avoid all the flack for like trying to talk about what no one can unsee, which was Barry Bonds jacking up was it 73 home runs? I mean, I will never forget that. I remember watching that season. I remember watching the McGuire, Sosa eras. And I understand, like, we're going to go back, talk about PEDs. Okay. The reality is you can't unsee that. And that's the record in my mind. So, look, it's an AL record. That's great. I feel like the MLB has even pivoted to that take. But I know it's a hot-button topic for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people are like, well, he's clean. Is he? Like, 5 years from now, like if we find something out, like how are you going to look back on this? And beyond that, for a sport that like we're going to condemn players for, taking PEDs, which obviously like that's kind of on the league to police that because it was rampant at that point in time. Everyone was doing it, even the guys throwing to them. Now it's like, well, they manufacture the baseballs. Like they can control whether or not those baseballs have a little extra pop off the bats, and they want to increase some of those numbers. So like, where do we draw the line with MLB? I know this is a football podcast, but it is recent, history.
No, I mean, like, I agree completely. And remember, so in 1990s, I was a huge baseball fan growing up. Huge baseball fan. Like that was just my dad and I.
How could you not be back then? I mean,
but like, so 94 was the strike shortened season.
Albert Bell was on his way.
Yeah, but when that happened, baseball lost so many fans because they're like, "What do you mean you're just gonna not play baseball? Okay, whatever. Like we're not in for this." And so that's why MLB, in my opinion, when Sosa and McGuire started blasting the Bonds, and these guys are just cranking home runs, and like there's interest back in baseball. It's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. It's all anyone's talking about on the talk shows, like the nascent talk shows, nascent sports talk shows. It's like the home run chase, the battle, and it's like you guys were complicit. Baseball was 100% complicit in like they knew what they were doing. These dudes had giant heads.
There's a bottle of like Andro right behind him as he's doing an interview at his locker. You're like, what are those? They're all horse pills. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
I hope what I hit, or like Mark McGuire. His forearms were so big, people stopped even looking at his face or what was at his locker. I mean, that bat looked like a toothpick in his hands when he was up there. I mean, it was fun. Like that was when I was growing up. I was like, man, I wanted to have a swing just like Sammy Sosa's. Like I remember like trying to like emulate what he was doing to kind of like time up, like adjust off speed, but like absolutely demolish any fastball that came over the plate.
But do you remember like what I mean? People forget like Barry Bonds in '92, right? Sid Bream, one of my favorite memories of all time. Sid Bream, National League Championship Series. Yes. Sid Bream beats out Barry Bonds' arm. If you go back and watch like Barry Bonds in '92, that dude was skinny. Art McGuire was skinny.
Not to defend him, but maybe he wasn't on a training regimen. Maybe he found Bob Baffert, and Bob Baffert, allowed him to. That's what I think he needed. I think all these guys needed like a Bob Baffert to come out and create this really crazy way in which they could possibly test positive for PEDs, or maybe
it's like when Dabo Sweeney's like, did we talk about Dabo Sweeney before previously?
Yeah, of course.
But how he's like when all his dudes tested positive for like androstenedione or something like that, or like something like very illegal Chinese supplement. He's like, I mean, I don't know, Jesus could have given it to him. Could have been Diet Coke. Who knows how it happened? It's like, right.
Could have been from Payway. We don't know. Bob Baffert's been like, sometimes, sir, do you see how big Barry Bonds' head has gotten? I train horses too. Their heads look pretty big to me. I don't know. It looks small in comparison.
But you're right. Like. It could, and let's not forget that Babe Ruth.
Well, and I'll say this, like
you're greenies, man.
Do you ever notice how like your ears, your nose, everything else starts to get bigger as you get older? Like I look at Prisco, and like every time I walk into the studio every week, as the older he gets, which happy birthday, Pete Prisco. For those of you watching on Wednesday, October 5th. It's a bit of a day late if you're listening on the 6th, but His ears and nose keep getting bigger. It's like he's Pinocchio out there.
It's because he's on all those steroids.
Well,
he may be on steroids.
He actually might be.
He is on steroids.
Can we kick off today's show?
Yes.
By me trying to clarify some stuff that's out there.
Is this the Jet stuff, or is this about?
Yeah, it's the Jet stuff. So you've been.
Are you now? So,
do you want to let me just go, and then you can kind of chime in from time to time, like you do?
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, okay. So let me ask you this:
I was going to set the table.
Did I ever say the Jets were going to go 0-9? Have I ever said that on the show?
I don't think so, because I went back and listened to it, and I think you may have said it on your radio show.
So even on my radio show, I never said they would go 0-9. The discussion was, I said they're closer to an 0-9 team than a 9-0 team, and they've got a really difficult schedule the first 9 games. Now, Jets fans who have somehow misconstrued that, because one of the clips that someone sent me, I was like, I literally say in the beginning, I think they'll win probably 5 games, bet the under for the amount of games they'll win this year. And the reality is, look, they're a 2-2 football team. Kudos to them. Now, we can go through each one of those wins and go, well, it was fairly improbable that you were going to actually beat the Browns. And maybe that's more of the Browns throwing away a game than the Jets winning the game. But again, road victory, Jets won it. Give them credit.
It's the first time in 3,000 games that particular scenario is
2,030 games.
Oh, yeah, right.
Correct. 2,029 games. And the last team to do it was the Browns before then. So anyway, and then this past week, the Steelers have a lead. They give up a lead. Their wide receivers start volleyball setting balls to the secondary with the Jets. I mean, look, it was a good comeback. I thought Zach Wilson played literally his best football, his best quarter in the fourth quarter. That's the best
of his career. Best quarter of his career
so far.
Yeah.
Give him a lot of credit. Now, if you just watched the first 3 quarters, you would have found that shocking, given how the first 3 quarters looked the way he played. That being said, they get to 2-2. So there's this misconception that I hate the Jets or thought they were going to go winless to the first 9 games. That wasn't anything close to what I said. And in fact, on radio, and I think on this, we talked about their schedule. I said this next week's game's winnable. I said the Browns game was winnable, given that Watson probably wouldn't be playing. And I said the Steelers were going to be winnable because I don't think the Steelers are that good this year. So far, all those things have come true. Now, the interesting thing is, and I brought this up before, and one of the reasons why I said they were closer to an 0-9 team than a 9-0 team is, tell me how many games the Jets have been favored this year so far.
Well, 0.
Okay, but no, let's pause for a second.
Well, but
pause for a second. Yeah. Now, this week, they're hosting the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa is not starting. Will, what's the line on that game?
The Dolphins are favored by 3.5 points.
If there was ever a time you would think that they would be favored, wouldn't this be it? At home, you're facing a backup quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater on the Dolphins, and you just came off a good road win. You're coming back home now. I mean, look, people can point at me. It's not me. Clearly, there's an idea out there that people don't believe in the Jets. And so Robert Saul and those guys, they can all keep all the receipts they want. And I'm actually picking the Jets. I'll take the 3 points in the home dog this week. Damn. But the reality is, I don't hate the Jets. I have a lot of respect for a lot of the guys in that organization. Phil Savage is in that organization. Rex Hogan, Phil, who drafted me in Cleveland. Rex, who actually was at Notre Dame when I was there. Robert Saleh, who have been around. A lot of respect for him. There's a number of people within that organization. So here's what I'm going to do. For every win over their 2 wins right now, the rest of the season, I'm going to donate $1,000 to a charity every single week. And here's how we're going to do it. For every 5-star review to the Pick Six podcast, we're going to have people throw in what charity they want that money to go to after a Jets win. You will then at the Pick Six podcast decide, and every single week, every win over the 2 wins they currently have right now, so 3, 4, 5, however many they end up getting this year, I'll donate $1,000 to a charity. So I'm going to take all of the hate from the Jets fans and all the crap that they've been talking on social media and all that, and just say, hey, look, let's take something, that's been a little ugly with how they've responded, and let's make it into something good.
Wow, look at you. That's cool. I like that. Let's make sure let's clip that, get that on social media. And so what we'll do is, when you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and write what charity you want to see. So you can go and leave the 5-star review now, because it takes a couple days to populate with the charity that you want Brady to donate to. It could be a few weeks before Brady's donating.
I think of next week. I'll be donating $1,000 next Wednesday. We'll make that decision, or at least we'll announce what charity it's going to. But there it is for all the Jets fans who think I don't believe in them or Zach Wilson, whatever else. There it is. I'm donating to charity on behalf of the Jets fan base and the New York Jets' success this season.
Now, with you having gone ahead and done the like a philanthropic thing and bridged the gap and really taken a step forward in healing, I'm going to point out that you're actually correct. Are the Jets at 2-2? Are they closer to 4-0 or 0-4?
Yeah, I mean, I think based on the results of the game, you'd say they're closer to 0-4. And the wins were, look, on the road, improbable. They found a way to win. I mean, that's honestly, I think when you go back and look at any season, you can say there's a few wins that we should have probably not had, and there's maybe a few losses that, should have been wins.
Sure.
That's how it works. I think the more interesting thing is, can they build off this momentum for a young team that maybe found a little bit of its rhythm or itself offensively in the fourth quarter and build off of that? Like, that's the biggest thing. If you're Robert Saleh, you're keeping receipts, you're kind of talking to the media about it because you hear all the frustration. Well, now this is one of those moments where, like, you should come back home and win this game. There's no doubt in my mind. They should be giving
the only winnable game you have between now and November 27th.
I disagree. I think New England's a winnable game. I mean, you might have a third-string quarterback starting in New England.
Belichick throttles them, though.
Well, again, I need to see it to believe it. So I think the Miami game, New England game, it's $2,000 right there. $1,000 to a couple of charities.
I love it, man.
By the way, the charities have to be legitimate. All right, they can't be like someone's uncle that you get buddies to come in and end up donating to. All right,
of course. I love it. I love it. I was going to offer to match, but no, I don't think so. I will point out though that like with the fans, and this is good. It's good because it means, now granted it's a little crazy, but it's good that NFL fans are passionate about their teams.
Yeah.
For instance, on HQ, I was asked this preseason, or they were like, give us some possible week 1 upsets. And I list the Patriots as a possible team, or the Patriots over the Dolphins as a possible upset in week 1. 3-point spread, not crazy. No. I said that the Tua hype had been a little out of control. And I also, granted, I did say that the Dolphins beat writers are a little more enthusiastic about their particular team than some other beat writers.
I said the same thing about the Jets, and I was still.
It got turned into I hate the Dolphins. I hate Tua. I think the Dolphins are going to stink this year. It's like, no, my employer simply said, give us a list of possible week 1 upsets, and I said the Patriots, Bill Belichick, might upset the Dolphins. Did they? No, of course not. The Dolphins are 3-1 now, and I'm catching eternal crap for it.
Well, and next thing you know, Tony Montana is like coming, trying to find you at your house, all that. Because he's a Dolphins fan, and he's really upset about you picking the Patriots to upset him. I get it.
Right. The Scarface 2, just the whole thing.
Yeah.
Hey, but did you like?
Look at Pelican.
Huh?
That's one of the lines.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Right.
Did you like Fletch as a kid, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't my favorite Chevy Chase movie, but it was pretty good.
But you're probably you're a little, people can't tell. I know I look younger than Brady, but Brady is actually younger than I am.
Yeah.
I was probably on the tail end of like Fletch was like it was probably for people, someone like who's like 3 or 4 years older than me. It was like their absolute wheelhouse. But we got the reciprocal or the trickle down effect from like older brothers and older cousins, and then you probably got into it as like a sub Chevy Chase. Anyway, they did a new Fletch movie.
They did?
Yeah, right. I didn't know. You know who's in it?
No.
John Hamm plays Fletch.
Really?
Yes, and I didn't realize
John Hamm?
It's out in theaters right now.
Is he funny?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I read it. I bought it on Amazon. I think it's actually on Paramount Plus.
Is that a bad move if you do a sequel and or not even a sequel, but you do like a reboot and you're trying to follow in Chevy Chase's footsteps?
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's they didn't do it as like, because first of all, Fletch Lives, the actual sequel was pretty disastrous. Everybody regards it. This is called Apologize, or is it Confess, Fletch. I didn't realize it until he was on the Manning cast on Monday night, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm in this new Fletch movie." And I started Googling it. The director was like furious. They're not advertising for it at all, and he's like, can't understand why. They did a really good job with it, though. I thought it's like they're not trying to be just like the original Fletch. It's like trying to like kind of like in a similar vein without being a direct copy. Because I rewatched Fletch in the last 24, 48 hours too. Like, you just can't be as funny as Chevy Chase was.
No, I mean, Chevy Chase is Chevy Chase. Like, you're
the funniest person of all time, probably.
He's up there. He's definitely up there. I mean, Bill Murray's up there for me if you want to go back to some of the old school actors. Sure. Eddie Murphy, was it Delirious? Was that one of his first stand-ups? Like, to this day will go back and watch that. But I mean, you could go through anyway.
Well,
what?
Chappelle's up there for me. It's just
Oh, for sure. I mean, the Chappelle Show, which could never be done now. I mean, half his stand-up now gets canceled. So
can you imagine if they fired up the Chappelle Show right now?
Yeah,
like there was stuff that was like we were in college. We used to sit around and watch it. Like
that's what we think we did. Everyone's sitting around watching that show or sitting around watching best of or other like clips of it.
All right. Anyway, football talk.
Yeah.
It's a football show. That's right. I do like how we always like. There's always just by the nature of like this, you being a former football player, like we'll talk like dumb stuff for like 25 minutes, and then like suddenly you'll be like, so that's when the cover 3 guy shifts down and comes across. Like it's good. It's a nice combination. We should note that Jonathan Taylor for the Colts is out this week. The Colts have ruled him out. Whether you're listening or watching, that is important information. It's kind of crazy that so Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey were the consensus like 1 and 2 picks in fantasy.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, well, Cooper Kupp can't repeat a season. Cooper Kupp is just the pick. Like Cooper Kupp is just the number 1 pick.
I mean, look, Christian McCaffrey, he's battled injuries, I think. And I've gone through this with you. I mean, we've gone in depth on this ever since he started his relationship with Olivia Couple. So that there's hardcore evidence. If you track when they started dating, go back to Christian McCaffrey's first season, we started getting banged up. They started dating, I think, like that February, that spring. And ever since then, he's had an injury history. And so, look, people can say what they want about it. I'm just saying.
Do you think he's just taking too many hits?
I think it's nice. You got something nice to go back home to. It's like makes you rethink everything you're doing out there.
Oh, you think he's like,
all these touches and all these runs. I don't know. I want to go back home and hang out for a little bit.
He's like, man, my team really stinks for the 3rd year in a row. You know who doesn't stink? Olivia. She smells nice. She smells nice.
Yeah, she can take care of him. So
it's a good theory.
I'm telling you, for all the
Instagram activity goes way up when he's hurt.
Go out and look. Like when they started dating, all of a sudden the injury bug bit him. I was like, I get it. I know exactly what he's going home to.
Colts are not 2-2, so I can't lump them into the 2-2 question. But
they're bad, huh?
Well, what do you the Jaguars and Titans are both 2-2. What do you think about the AFC South as a whole? Like, I think the Jaguars can. I'm not saying they'll definitely win it. I think they can.
I think it's still gonna be the Titans when it's all said and done. It seems like they're starting to kind of round into form. The Traylon Burks injury stinks. I mean, that was one where you go, all right, like how are they gonna be able to overcome this? But bottom line is like Tannehill's starting to get into a flow. Derrick Henry's starting to look like himself. I think the defense is adjusting to Harold Landry not being there too to help out rushing off the edge. They're just settling into form. But the Jaguars are going to be there. Like Pete and I talk about this every week. And Pete, honestly, look, I give him credit. He was bullish on them for a while now. He's kind of always been bullish on them with the exception of last season because he didn't like Coach Meyer. But he's always kind of talked about their talent and some of the ability they've got. My concern for them moving forward is just, will they be able to sustain themselves running the football and protecting Trevor Lawrence? Like, I think Doug Peterson's done a great job of scheming around that. But once you start getting the meat of some of these schedules, like that's going to be a problem for them moving forward. And I don't think they're very deep. So as we get into the season, if they suffer a number of injuries or a rash of injuries, that could be a team that kind of falls by the wayside rather quick. The Colts are that's the most disappointing. Like that's the one that I don't get it. I mean, obviously Jonathan Taylor being out hurts. You see them beat a team like Kansas City Chiefs, and you're like, what the hell was that?
They accidentally won, kind of. I mean,
right. Like how does that happen? And people can go back and go, oh, okay, well, whatever Chris Jones said to Matt Ryan, was that deserved of extending a drive that ultimately helped them win the game? I don't know. I wasn't out there to hear it. I know they're trying to enforce that more and more, and it is what it is. But the reality is they did get that one win, and it always makes you scratch your head when you go, how that happened? They've looked so bad.
They got shut out by the Jaguars, dude.
Not only shut out by the Jaguars, but even like Washington versus Tennessee, I just felt like they were like helpless at times. And I know that game would end up being a 1-score game in the end, but it didn't feel that way watching it.
Do they look a lot like? And I mean, I'm not blaming this on Matt Ryan, but they look a lot like the 2021 Falcons.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and the weird thing is like the offensive line for the Colts is supposed to be a strength. They have not played well. I mean, that's all parties involved too. Even some of the guys who are like all pros. So that's a concerning thing. But you're not going to name any names. No, but I mean, Pete will. Pete does
out of Irish pride, pure Irish pride.
Well, I mean, look,
I'm kidding.
Quentin Nelson got beat on one last week, but he didn't go. These guys get beat from time to time. Sometimes they're playing banged up too. Only those guys know what they're battling through. But to your point, like look at the Falcons right now. That offense looks miles ahead of where it was last year. And then you're looking at the Colts going, oh, like this does not look like an upgrade from Carson Wentz. I mean, they were playing at a better clip last year with Wentz. So I'm sure Jim Irsay somewhere is upset, leaning up against a tree, filming a music video. But the reality is this has not worked out. They tried to cast all their blame on Carson Wentz and not getting vaxxed. And now we look at Matt Ryan walking the door and it's like, no, this is not working out either.
Hey, do you think there's a chance that somebody asked you this? I can't remember if it was on radio or we were talking about on the podcast, but is there a chance that Jim Irsay is like puts this blame on Chris Ballard and Frank Reich and cans of both? I think there is.
Well, look, with some of these owners, I think it's always on the table. He's one of them. You know, I think given some of his past transgressions, I mean, you know, you never know where you're going to find someone's trunk, but like the reality is, yeah, it's probably on the table. I mean, it's not what
that got swept under the rug, man. Talk about like,
yeah.
Really,
or bagged up and, you know, tossed in the trash.
Flushed. That thing got flushed under the sink.
They've gone the veteran quarterback route now for what, 3 years or 3 times at least, right? Rivers, your guy, to Wentz, to Ryan. And at some point, I think you got to be like, all right, like maybe we need to look back really hard at the draft to find someone somewhere up high to come in and kind of build around, because it hasn't worked. And look, it doesn't help either when one of your best defensive players has been hurt a lot this year, and Shaq Leonard, which also, I mean, he hasn't looked the same ever since the name change.
That's true, and the injuries. They didn't have a first round pick this year.
Are you the type of person though that like if you would have changed something like that, you'd be like, maybe I should change my name back, you know?
Oh, if I wasn't playing well, if I was getting hurt, I'd be like, yeah, I made a mistake. I got to go back to Darius.
You got to go back to like the courthouse and like officially change my name back.
Yeah, I'd probably just be like, I'd probably just call me Darius. I don't think he actually. It was always Shaq. He just didn't correct anybody when they started calling him Darius.
Gotcha. Well, wait. So this is like kind of similar, like the 8 to 24 of the Kobe. You know, like when Kobe went from 8 and the 24, it's like people are like, oh no, it's like Kobe's 24 now. It's not 8. It's almost like view him differently. Like, no, that was 24 Kobe, not 8 Kobe.
Yeah. But I'm saying like his real name, he never had to change it.
Never change it. I get that.
Yeah. Maybe they look at it differently. No first round pick this past year because of the Carson Wentz trade. Kwity Paye, they took it 21 the year before. No first round pick the year before that because of the DeForest Buckner trade. And no first round pick the year before that because they traded theirs to the Jets, I believe. Am I wrong on that? No, that's not right.
I'll be honest with you. Don't really care either way. They have not been good this year. So
yeah, they've not been good. Anyway, my larger point was that they've drafted well, but they haven't had the opportunity to draft a quarterback, and they've made these trades, and it's been fine. But at some point, you're going to have to get a quarterback.
Their roster's built well enough that they could give up almost an entire draft of picks to go find a guy or go get a guy. I don't think they've had that draft where they've had to do it. Now, this would be that time where I'm not talking conspiracy theory here, but all right, if we're projecting the Colts and looking ahead to the 2023 draft, we're going to have Anthony Richardson out of Florida, who, you know, look, going back and watching his Tennessee tape, that reminded me more of like what he's capable of as a passer. He reminds me of a guy who I think has similar upside to what Josh Allen had. Tremendous athlete, probably more explosive than Allen is. Also a very live arm. He's got some good fundamentals. The way he flips his feet, makes some throws. Now he's still working on his touch, but Anthony Richardson to me right now oozes with talent, and he's going to attract a lot of attention regardless of how bad he's looked at times early this season. I think the more he plays, the better he'll get. Will Levis is up there out of Kentucky, even though he's struggled at times. The offensive line hasn't really protected him well. He hasn't had much of a running game, so he's had to kind of be a part of that. But he's got a strong arm, athleticism, all the stuff you're looking for. And then you got your C.J. Stroud and your Bryce Young, who, you know, Stroud's a little bit more undersized, but he'll pick you apart. Accurate as all get out. He's got a strong enough arm. He anticipates timing well. The only thing that I think when you watch his tape, you go, he's not really getting much pressure. You know, he doesn't like getting hit. The games I see him where he gets hit early doesn't quite look the same. And then Bryce Young, who's my favorite, I think he plays the position the best of all of them. He's NFL ready. It's just he's undersized. And I don't know how teams are going to view that, especially considering, He's got an AC joint injury right now that he's battling with. So those are the 4 guys they could potentially go after. And I think all 4 go in the first round next year. So if this is like remember the suck for luck year, like
yeah,
necessarily a bad year to suck if you're the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna, I mean, that's what I was saying too last year. Is like if they were gonna be bad with Carson Wentz, I think there's some playing time incentives for Matt Ryan in terms of the draft pick compensation, right?
Yeah,
like if you're gonna be bad, you should sit him and keep a better pick so you don't have to give up as good a pick. Like that's what they should have done with Wentz. They could have gone to the playoffs and they win in week 18. So like I don't blame them for playing him. But okay, do you want to hear? I'll tell you what. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm gonna tell you the most ridiculous news of the day that is gonna make you so mad. We're gonna do that next. All right, this is an actual headline. You're gonna be. I don't know if you've seen this yet or not. This is from TMZ Sports.
Oh, gosh.
The fan who was leveled by Bobby Wagner after running on the field during Monday Night Football this week has now filed a police report over the incident. Yes. How mad does that make you?
I mean, first off, the guy's trespassing, and he was holding some sort of flare or whatever it was.
Like a pink smoke bomb, basically.
I mean, how do you know he's not putting Bobby Wagner and the rest of the players in danger out there in the field? I would say if you enter that arena, it's on you, whatever happens next, because you're not in a place or an environment that is conducive to you being safe. That is all I will say. I don't care if it's football, basketball, baseball,
WNBA.
I'll be honest with you.
Hockey.
I work in broadcasting now. I wish there was a fan that ran on the field and came near me. I would absolutely take them down. It is the biggest waste of time. It is the most selfish thing you can do to try to draw attention to yourself instead of the players who've worked for that moment their entire lives, put themselves at physical risk, the coaches, everything else behind it, all the people in the crowd who came to watch the game and not you. Get out of here with that BS, you clown. I hope there's a countersuit or however that would even work. But it's the biggest joke, and I'm tired of seeing this crap in sports when people do stuff like this and then they don't expect to face the consequences. So how about everyone wakes up and starts being accountable for their own decisions and stop being jackasses? That would be my 2 cents on it.
I don't
pull up your pants, take off the bra, and be a man.
That's Kevin Harlan was actually calling the smoke bomb for Westwood 1 too. That the pull up your pants thing is from another person going on ran on the field in a bra.
Now that's the only thing is like if a dude's like fully naked and there's stuff swinging around, I don't want any part of that.
No, you're not tackling that. Right.
If like a dude like that was running by, full on Anthony Schlegel back when he was the strength coach at Ohio State, who just hip tossed the dude. I mean, just slam him to the ground. I would love that opportunity to do that.
That guy is headed to the slammer, and it will not be a good night.
That's actually from this game. That's shout out. Nice pull, Billy. I almost called you Debo, Billy. Anyway, the other thing too is like I'm pretty sure that on the ticket, like there's a whole host of terms and conditions like in which you can't I mean, if something happens in the stadium, that's because from a negligent standpoint. But like if you go on the field, you are inherently trespassing.
Yeah.
And by the way, speaking of trespassing at like sporting events, you're of the you like Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, of course.
Love Rage, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know that they had to cancel the rest of their North American tour because Zach De La Rocha, the lead singer, tore his Achilles when a fan ran on stage. He was trying to knock him off. So this jackass is trespassing. He said he had 8% of his Achilles remaining intact. So that he's been doing the show in a chair. I saw him in Raleigh. He was in a chair. It's crazy energy for a guy with a torn Achilles. But like, you go back to the selfish part. This guy who just had to run on stage at the Rage concert has now ruined the rest of the tour for everyone else. Like, you're not as cool as you think you are when you run on stage.
No, there's nothing cool about it. Whatever you're protesting, find some other way of grabbing attention. Because the only thing everyone draws attention to now is I have no idea if the guy was protesting or what he was doing. I just know he got his ass laid out by Bobby Wagner. So good for Bobby Wagner. I already love the guy. I didn't think I could love him more. Now he's my favorite linebacker. Like literally, I'm like, thank God for Bobby Wagner.
By the way, I love how I'm like telling people not to be selfish and draw attention to themselves. Like the day after did I tell you the story about doing the Tiger Walk at Clemson? You know what the Tiger Walk is?
Yeah. I mean, I thought I've mentioned before, like other walks on the
No, not that kind of walk. Not that kind of walk. Not like not a pledge walk. Although we did go to a frat party. So they did. All the players go through, the down the street. Me and my buddies actually walked. Like we took a turn and like ended up on the street. I'm like, all right, let's just keep walking. It's much faster than walking through the crowd.
It's true.
And nobody was stopping us. So I started yelling. I was like, go back. Let's go back. And then like all the fans were booing me on both sides.
And it didn't work out well for you in the end.
No, exactly. Right. I got laid out like Bobby Wagner. All right. Let's talk some football. Because we gotta be done at 3:00 and we gotta squeeze some football.
We can go a little over.
Okay. Best 2-2 team. I'm gonna give you a list. All right, buy or sell on these 2-2 teams. Or do you want to talk about 2-2 teams, or do you want to talk about 2-0?
I talked about 2-2 teams, then talk to
Okay. Buy or sell. Well, we already talked about the Jaguars. You're sort of selling.
No, I'm buying them.
Okay, you're buying.
Yeah.
Jets. We talked about. You're selling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair sell.
Although the next couple weeks, because I think they go Miami, then New England.
No, they got Miami, and then I think it's like worse.
At Denver, at Green Bay.
Miami at home, at Green Bay, at Denver. I mean,
that's tough.
Like if you're 3-4,
they'll be 3-2 after this week, and then I don't know after that.
I mean, they're probably losing at Denver and that. They're losing at Green Bay and probably losing it. And anyway, we're selling. The Atlanta Falcons. We referenced them. Buy or sell the Atlanta Falcons 2-2 team.
I'm buying what I see. I don't think it's sustainable. Cordero Patterson's out too now, which hurts because he's been phenomenal for them. But man, give credit to Arthur Smith and that crew, that team. Like they have done an incredible job. So I'm buying what I think they will be in the future. I don't know how many more wins they got left in them.
Yeah.
No, the game 2 last week, you kind of looked at Cleveland and are like, all right, Stefanski kind of mismanaged another game, and maybe that was another one they should have won that they lost.
I mean, Cleveland could be like undefeated.
Could be 4-0 right now. Like 4-0. And if not for giving away a game that 2,029 other times.
I think it's like 2,230 times.
2,230 times. Like other teams found a way to win that game, and yet the Browns didn't. So,
I think with the Falcons too, like it's weird that they've done this without Kyle Pitts being prominently involved. It seems like they, with Drake, it feels like
fantastic.
Yeah, like that's looking like a really good pick.
I think look, they're running a little bit of zone read. Like you start mixing in those plays. I'm telling you, it simplifies what defenses can do. I say this all the time. I think you go back to like the Chip Kelly days when even he had Nick Foles do it, and you're like, Nick Foles can't run the zone read. Like, yeah, he can. Like when it's wide open enough and you spread the field the way they were doing, it simplifies what you can do. No one's going to play man against you because once they play man against you,
you miss one.
It's out. It's a ton of space. It's 10 yards, 20 yards, big plays. So it simplifies the defenses you see. You don't see much. It's basically post high safety zone, and that's about it. And then if you're in a must pass situation and 3rd and long or whatever, different story there. But for the most part, you see just a lot of zone coverage. You can pick teams apart.
Okay. So we selling, but we like what they're doing long term. Do you think how much of an impact do you think that has, like this sort of performance? I mean, I think it matters a ton. Like ownership, Arthur Blank. Do you think he's seeing this and thinking, man, like you know what I'm saying? Like you want to not reinvest, but you don't find yourself wondering, do I need to reboot again? You start thinking, okay, these guys might have it on the right path.
Oh yeah, like I think you give Arthur Smith plenty of time. I mean, first off, you're missing one of your best players too in Calvin Ridley. I would think going in this year, and it's no disrespect to Marcus Mariota, but I'm sure even they were curious to see how the season's going to go. And it's probably gotten off to as good of a start or maybe a little better start than even they thought. So, I'm not sure if this is a scenario where you see them fall off and then they find themselves in a great position to take a Bryce Young who happens to play football there in Tuscaloosa, not too far away, or any of the other quarterbacks I threw out earlier. But that's where I feel like this is kind of setting up for.
All right. You mentioned that you like the Titans. It's obvious buy on the Titans, right?
Yeah. I mean, Mike Vrabel's a great coach.
He really is. He might be the most underrated coach in football.
Yeah. And Tannehill's played so well in the course of the regular season. Like I trust that. Like people talk about Malik Willis time and all that. I'm like, he's pretty green. Like once there's an injury and you see him going, he plays really well. I think you have to change the offense a lot because of the type of RPOs, the amount of RPOs he ran during his time at Liberty. I just think it'd be a hard transition for him unless you're really doing a 180 on the offense.
I think Mike Vrabel loves Ryan Tannehill. So I've had people try and tell me that he doesn't, and I don't know why they think that.
I don't know. Maybe he feels like, I mean, again, I don't get that sense either from watching it. And I don't know how you could. Like
you get the sense that he really likes him, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's been as consistent as can be. He's played tough. He takes off and runs and does things like that. I know they haven't been able to get it done in the playoffs, and maybe there's some frustration there, but that's not all on Tannehill either.
I mean, they were in the AFC Championship game last year.
Yeah.
Right?
Or 2 years ago.
2 years ago. And then, yeah, that's right. The Chiefs and Bengals last year. Sorry, I got confused. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a weird claim to have people be like, oh, I don't know. I don't think Vrabel likes Tannehill. It's like, no, Vrabel loves Tannehill.
Yeah.
He's hard-nosed. He's quiet. He works his ass off. He's a good leader. Like, yeah, he loves him. Okay. Cardinals, Arizona Cardinals, and your boy, Cliff Kingsbury. Buying and selling them at 2-2. They're a tough one.
I mean, dude, I'm buying them right now because they're finding ways to win games they probably shouldn't. And they don't have arguably their best player out there in DeAndre Hopkins. So you're a quarter in the season, a little less with 17 games, and you're 2-2. And you got to feel like the Rams don't look like they're running away with it right now.
Nope.
Seattle looks more competitive than we thought. I actually think there's better upside now in the 49ers that with the most recent win, they are the favorite to win that division. But, I think I'm a little more – I'm buying them. Like, I think I'm excited to see what they will be when Hopkins get in there and he can help out. Rondale Moore was missed a little bit of time too. AJ, they obviously lost AJ Green this season, but like JJ Watt, like that whole situation going on there, that's terrifying, and you're going like, what's that the rest of the season? But I'm buying where they're at. They found ways of winning games, and Kyler Murray, dude, it's tough to close out.
Yeah. I didn't include the Rams on our list of 2-2 teams because I was going to ask about the offensive line. What do the Rams do here? Because they've lost games of the 49ers and the Bills. So it is maybe like it is. I think take a little bit like everybody take a breath. Let's not panic. Those are two good teams, but
yeah, I think they'll get it together. I mean, I think Matt Stafford's been a little bit out of sync. Obviously, leads the league in interceptions. He turned the football over too much. That's no crap comment. But the offensive line's been banged up. That's been an issue. The protection hasn't been as good. The problem is once you get into the season, that's not changing. So you kind of have to go about it like one of three ways. Either you as the player and the coordinator have to start to really adapt your scheme and run more 7-man protections and try to get the ball out of his hand quick if you're going to run 5-man protections. You got to start hammering away running the football, provide more balance. You realize Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. Or you basically just say, all right, like we're going to have to live with this. And we're just going to have to like there's going to be certain weeks where, we're going to have to maybe, say like, hey, Matt, you got to toughen up. I'd eat an extra pork chop there at dinner and beef up because it could be a long season. And we're going to have to deal with this the rest of the year.
Thank God I have this extra pork chop.
Just go get an extra pork chop, all right?
Good news, they get Micah Parsons and the Dallas Cowboys this week. The Panthers are actually pretty good rushing the passer the week after. And then the 49ers and the Buccaneers.
Load up on some little apple chutney for those pork chops, all right?
Get us some extra pork chops. We're going to need an extra load of pork chops. Yeah. The other one, the Denver Broncos. Buy or sell Denver Broncos at 2-2.
I'm buying them in part because they're too talented not to start to play better. I mean, they have been incredibly mismanaged and they've found themselves at 2-2. So I just like, and obviously the Javonte Williams injury hurts them, but they do have Gordon. I love Latavius Murray too in that offense. Like I know they just signed him and we'll see where things go, but I'm high on them. I think Russ is getting a better feel for the guys he's throwing to. Garrett Bowles is just giving all out effort, on fumble returns for touchdowns, which I mean, he's going to get fined for that in the O-line room. There's no doubt.
I mean, his wife dragged him on Twitter.
Yeah. I mean,
your wife is making fun of your, like, do you think he'll get fined for like jokingly leaping?
You get fined because the way he dove and then he kind of all of a sudden was like, oh, I'm not going to make it. Now I'm going to like half-ass it. Like you can't, like that's I don't know what fine they'll call it, but he'll get fined for that. Trust me.
Really?
There's a fine in the O-line room. They fine those guys for everything. That's one where it's going to be like, dude, first off, what was the point of you chasing down? You weren't going to catch him. Good effort. But then it was a little bit too much there with the dive. At
little bit like when the keeper dives out to like stop a little dribbler. Like it's like you don't need to.
There was like I remember I was in Denver. There was a fine back then where there was a self suck, and that was anytime you like gave yourself credit for something. Like that was like described. Yeah, like you're giving yourself a little bit.
No, I get it. We get it.
And then there was a few where like you, I guess, set yourself apart from the rest of the O-line. Like that would be an instance where, again, good effort, good thought, but that's one where he's going to get a lot of flack for the dive.
You made it about you.
Yeah, with the dive. I think had he just tried to run and hey, all right, I'm not making it,
or even like slid or pulled up and just
yeah, pulled up would have been great. Like that would have been the best case scenario.
Pulling up's always good. How long should the Cowboys play Cooper Rush?
I think they're going to play him until he plays poorly. Like that's my anticipation of this. Like I think they're going to milk this whole Cooper Rush and let's ride the hot hand type thing.
Jerry Jones does love attention.
Well, I think it's that. I think it's also if he plays poorly, right? They lose a game. Dak is all of a sudden ready to go. And when he gets in there, if he's not playing great, it's a little more understandable when people aren't like, oh, put Cooper Rush back in, right? If he's playing great, they're winning. And then it's like, all right, Dak's ready to go. And he goes in and struggles. People are going to be like, get him out of there. He's not ready yet. Or, let's put this Cooper Rush guy back in. So I think he's going to play that hot hand scenario and use the injury and the surgery and the recovery to be the excuse. And they're just going to wait until Cooper Rush fails, personally.
Okay, I think that's what they should do. Honestly,
yeah,
play Cooper Rush until you lose, and you lose because of him. By the way, do you think we get the same? You predicted this correctly, and I was about to make a self-suck joke, but it was going to backfire badly in my face. But I hyped you up every time I would do a radio hit. Or like do any kind of people would ask me like, why did Russ look so bad? I'm like, you go listen to Pick Six podcast. Brady Quinn explained it.
Yeah,
that hand injury, you're just not going to come back and be effective that quickly. Do you think Dak is at what's his range where you think he'll? And I think it'll probably be a problem for him for most of the year, honestly. But like,
yeah, I mean, it's gonna change the way you're gripping the football to a degree, whether you're cognizant of it or not. I wonder how much he'll go under center. And that's not like that big of an issue until you get in short yardage and you need to be under center, or your running attack is limited because you're going to have to run pistol. Like you'd like a quarterback to be under center with the running game because at least in between the tackles, those guys can get downhill faster. And it's better for them to be able to see kind of the hole in the vision of all of it. When you're standing right next to a quarterback in shotgun, it's harder then to kind of get that full head of steam and then see some of the cuts and have that vision. And then you can go into pistol, but you don't see that very often in the NFL. And just because it's usually a longer developing play. So I think it could hurt the running game if he comes back and he can't go under center. Because that right hand, right, that throwing hand is going to be the top. And I'm telling you, man, the way those balls will hit your hand sometimes, you could jack up your thumb or it might be cumbersome for him. So if you just shotgun, that hurts. I just think the way he's going to be able to grip and control the ball, and especially when you think later in the season, when you start getting to some of those cold weather games in Philly, New York, or, however that works out, I know this, like I've got, stuff in my foot, right? I got metal in my foot. It feels awful in cold weather. Like it's hard because you've lost feeling after surgery. It's not going to feel the same. I would imagine his thumb feels different. I had pins put in this right index finger. It feels different when it gets cold. You can't really feel the ball quite as much come off of it. So all those things are going to play a factor. I think it's going to take a few weeks, even when he gets back in there, because you can't replicate in your preparation and your rehab the intensity of what a game really calls for. So until you get into that game, then you start to get a sense of how to adapt to all of it, and we'll see how he adapts to it. Sorry,
I was like trying not to giggle because as soon as you said when the balls hit your hand, I was like, first of all, I kind of like started to giggle, but then like immediately in the chat, in the YouTube chat, the adult dating adult dating site bot came flying in. It was like maybe they listen. I wonder if that's how they do it. Is it like a
I don't know,
algorithm based on like the sound? I always assumed it was just like if a video is popular. Maybe that's why they're always in our chat. It's because we're constantly making adult
probably
more jokes. Yes,
I would imagine they listen. They're listening to the phones, they're listening to everything else at this point. So
they're all listening. Yeah. So just don't bother. Okay, we're gonna play one read between the lines and we'll get out of here because I think this is funny. I think it's funny. Cheeto played some spectacular football, Coach Pete Carroll said via the team's official website. Spectacular football. Not just the throwing and the catching, but the command of the game and running the whole show. He did an incredible job, and he ran the ball, too, for 50 yards or something. Fantastic day. I don't know how you could do a whole lot more, play a whole lot better than that.
Dude, Gino's been balling. You got to give him a lot of credit.
Yeah.
He set the record, right, for completion percentage of the first 4 games in NFL history. Like, kudos to him. And maybe even Pete Carroll, who, like, this to me is a self-suck. Like, that's what that is.
Exactly.
He's giving himself credit for patting himself on the back, moving on from Russ, that whole situation, and going with the guy no one else believed in, but he did. And so far, they're right in the thick of things in the NFC West. So kudos to Pete Carroll. That was a quote that I know he's trying to flatter Geno Smith.
No. See,
but really self-suck. Like, that was really what it was.
Reading between the lines, he's like,
yeah.
To me, it's just like, F you, Russ. Oh, look at you. You suck. And I self-suck. That's right, Russ. He definitely is like hyping himself up, hyping Geno up. But I think it is like these comments, anytime he's hyping up Geno, there's some like direct, in his head, he's thinking about Russell. Like, did
he ever call Russell spectacular at any point in time?
No, he didn't even shake his hand at halftime before the game.
Well, I'm not saying this season. I'm saying like while he was a Seahawk. Like, I don't recall that.
No, he would talk to him and like he'd be like, this guy just tries hard. Great effort. Yeah, he never say spectacular.
Yeah, spectacular is like, all right.
Certainly not spectacular twice. Okay, that'll do it. It's a good show.
Hey, remember, 5-star review, legitimate charity.
Oh, yeah, God, I forgot. It was like 40 minutes ago. You're giving away money every time the Jets win.
Every time the Jets win. So not over the 2 wins they've already got. You gotta make sure you explain things for these Jets fans. They don't listen well. So every win now moving forward, $1,000 at that following week, and we'll give it to a charity through our 5-star reviews, right? And you can handle that stuff. So
if you have a charity you're passionate about, go to Apple Podcast.
Yeah.
A real charity. Yeah, not like not your Venmo. A real charity. Go to Apple Podcast, leave a 5-star review, name the charity, and we will, when the Jets win, Brady Quinn will donate $1,000 to that. We will pick a charity that Brady Quinn will donate to.
Every time. And by the way, so Robert Saleh is keeping the receipts. Well, we will keep the receipts too. We'll make sure to post that. Not with my credit card number on it, but we'll make sure to post that.
That's right. Victor Garcia in the chat says, "Please, Jets, go 15-2." It would be amusing.
Thank you.
Yeah. But that's right. But that is unlikely, and fortunately for Brady, he wouldn't love it.
How many more wins do you think they get this season? So how about this? Like, Jets fans, for some reason, take out all their hatred on me, and which I was there for like half a season. And I enjoyed the experience there. It was nice. Love Florham Park, great facility. The crazy thing was when I came out and saw the line that they're not favored at home this week versus Miami, I was astonished. I was like, all right, I'm taking the 3 points. So we have to do our picks today with Pete. I'll take the 3. But how about this? Their win total hasn't changed. It stayed the same. Even after a 2-2 start, their win total for the year stayed the same. Now, I think that was according to DraftKings.
Yeah, 5.5. They updated him. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's a slap in the face. like you're at 2-2, and they don't believe that you can sustain this moving forward. So you can hate me all you want. I'm trying to just donate to charity now. But why don't you guys be upset with some of the bookmakers out there and go lay out some bets and make some of your own money off this if you think they're going to win that much?
By the way, one more quick thing that we'll get out of here. A fascinating update that only you will care about.
Yes.
My son, Robbie, 8 years old, he likes to take the phone of whoever picks him up from school and text. He likes to text gifts, right? But you know what else he started doing?
Voice notes.
Yes. He sent me like 50 voices. I got a voice note right here from him that's like 3 seconds long. I'm not going to hit play because I'm scared it's like something,
Dad, F you.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Or he's probably like, you sussy baka. Anyway, so I'm going to go listen to that voice note. You're going to go. I forget.
I left you a voice note earlier.
I started to send one back, and then I was like making lunch.
It's like a walkie-talkie. They're fun, man. Come on.
Do you remember those old Nextel?
The old chirp.
Yeah. I kind of liked them.
Yeah. Now you got them with voice notes. See?
Yeah. All right. I'll send you a voice note back afterwards.
Thank you.
All right, Brady. Thanks as always. Good chat. Talk to you soon, buddy.
We'll see you.
All right.